Hello everyone, we are Group 18 from AS31903, International Politics of Latin America. Today, we'll be presenting a video about populism in Latin America. Hope you all enjoy watching the video. First of all, this is our group members. Group 18 consists of 5 group members. PENGIRAN ARIFF ZAKWAN bin Awang Muhammad SALLEH, Muhammad Farezal bin Abdul Ali, Nur SYAZWANI binti JASMI, Nur AWANIS binti ROSLAN, and if MASUIL. Populism has significantly impacted Latin America's political, economic, and social structures, causing both polarizing and transformative changes. The region's persistent issues with social exclusions, political turmoil, and economic inequality have led to the growth of populist movements. These movements aim to fulfill the needs of marginalized groups and challenge the established power of ruling classes. Latin American politics have been significantly shaped by populism, resulting in major transformations and increased conflicts between various social and political groups.
Early 20th century, the industrialization of Latin America countries led to the emergence of populism in the regions. Populist leaders applied to the urban poor and working class individual as a rural population moved to urban area for improved living conditions and employment opportunities. This change created conditions for the rise of populist belief perceived as a response to growing demand for economic justice and political involvement. Major populist leaders like Juan Domingo Perón in Argentina, Getulio Vargas in Brazil, and Lázaro Cárdenas in Mexico emerged by the 1930s, defending the rural poor and industry working class. During this period, social initiatives that improved working class living conditions increased. Politicals used rhetoric to position themselves as the true voice of the oppressed masses and emphasize the contrast between the pupils and the elites. Nationalist rhetoric became a major component of populist speech as a leader aimed to lessen their country's dependence on the power and establish their country's economic sovereignty. The political and economic climate of the Latin America changed dramatically and the second half of the 20th century approach. Neoliberalism essence and the acceptance of free market economy principle in 1980 and 1990 had a significant impact, leading the privatization and structural adjustment plan that widened social economic disparities. The 1990s saw the emergence of the fresh wave of populists moved by Rafael Corrent, Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, and Evo Morales in Bolivia. This new populist political pushed the economic model that directly challenged the current political and economic order.
Now I'm going to talk about the role of charismatic leaders from the socio-economic factors and political dynamics in shaping the populist movement. In Latin America, charismatic leaders who show themselves as true champions of the people and build close emotional ties with their followers are hallmarks of populist leadership. Loyalty and the legitimacy of the leader are fostered by this direct and unmediated interaction, which is frequently interpreted as an indication of solidarity with the general public. Critics counter that the rule of law may be threatened, political dissent may be repressed, and democratic institutions may be weakened by this concentration of power. The political, economic, and cultural elites are also criticized by the populist leaders, who paint themselves as dishonest, self-serving, and disengaged from the issues that the populace faces. This animosity makes populist groups more appealing and facilitates support mobilization. Another essential element of populism in Latin America is economic nationalism, where leaders advocate policies that put protectionism, national sovereignty, and independence first. Mass mobilization is a common feature of populist movement, which primarily target the working class, rural poor, and urban poor. These leaders use persuasive words, symbolic actions, and emotional appeals to successfully unite communities and create a common identity. However, this framing makes political cooperation and reconciliation more challenging and widens the societal divides. By presenting political debates as a conflict between the people and the elites, populist politicians also promote great political division, which makes it challenging to rule successfully and amicably. This is due to the fact that the durability of democratic institution is seriously threatened by political polarization, which makes it more difficult to govern effectively and peacefully. When the legitimacy of populist leaders is called into question or their popularity wanes, the political environment becomes even more unstable, resulting in a crisis of governance and a breakdown of public confidence. Since populist movements tend to prioritize personalized leadership above institutional continuity, this circumstance jeopardizes their long-term viability.
Latin America has long been a stage for dynamic and transformative leadership. Among the most iconic figures are Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, Evo Morales of Bolivia, and Juan Perón of Argentina. But what do they all have in common? A certain thing is, they do have the charisma, with an undeniable connection with the people itself. These leaders didn't just govern, they inspire movement. They build emotional bridges with the people, speaking directly to their hopes and fears. By positioning themselves as champion of the people, they became a symbol of change, often bypassing traditional political system in favor of direct communication. From various speeches in public squares to a media appearance and even social media posts, this leader crafted an image as the voice of the people. Their followers saw them as essential to a national transformation. But here's the flip side. When a movement relies too much on one charismatic leader, it can become fragile. What happens when a leader is gone? Without a strong institution, this movement risks instability and sometimes even collapse. So the question is, why has populism thrived in Latin America? Well, the answer lies in the region's deep inequality. For decades, wealth and resources have been concentrated in the hand of small elite, leaving the majority of the population struggling in poverty. So populist leaders tap into this inequality, promising to address injustice and give people to the group, especially the marginalized group. They present themselves as an outsider, a reformer, or in other words, a true representative for the people. Take Juan Perón as for example. As president of Argentina, he shaped a political movement that remained influential to this day, Peronism. Perón built his legacy on empowering workers and the poor, which becoming a symbol of social justice in Argentina itself. But there is a pattern. Populism thrives where trust in democratic system is weak, where corruption and political instability are common. In Latin America, history shows us how populist leaders rise to power during the moment of crisis, presenting themselves as the nation's savior. So while charismatic leaders can unite and inspire, it also raises a question. Can this movement sustain themselves without their leader? Or does their strength depend too much on one person? The story of Latin America populist really reminds us the power of the connection and the challenge of building lasting change. It is a lesson not just for this region, but for the whole world itself.
Hugo Chavez's rule in Venezuela was a prime example of populism that combined left-wing philosophy with anti-imperialist rhetoric. Chavez's economic model, heavily relying on oil revenues, led to an economic crisis, fueling widespread poverty and eventual collapse. His successor, Nicolas Maduro, faced similar challenges, and the current crisis in Venezuela underscored the dangers of populist economic models based on one commodity. Evo Morales' presidency in Bolivia was an example of populism focused on social reforms, economic nationalism, and indigenous rights. He aimed to empower Bolivia's indigenous population and reduce historical social and economic disparities by nationalizing natural resources, particularly in the oil and gas industry. His government also implemented land reforms to aid rural areas and promote social justice. However, Morales' ambitions to run for a fourth term and extend his presidency beyond the constitution sparked concerns about the decline of democratic institutions and the concentration of power in the executive branch. His administration was criticized for increasing authoritarianism and challenges to democratic standards despite being viewed as a transformative experience that improved indigenous rights and reduced poverty. Populism expresses a deep-seated societal discontent and challenges to established elites, and it is still very significant in today's politics. Populism, which is defined by its appeal to the people against alike corrupt institutions, has taken on diverse ideological forms with both left and right-wing expression influencing speech and policy around the world. Its future development is probably linked to elements that reinforce populist narrative, like cultural identity, economic disparity, and the proliferation of internet communications. However, how democracy adjusts to citizen concerns while striking a balance between inclusion and institutional integrity will determine its impact.
Overall, these populist leaders represent a range of approaches and ideologies that reflect the complex socio-political dynamics in Latin America. While they have achieved some significant successes in addressing inequality and empowering marginalized groups, they have also faced challenges related to economic sustainability, political polarizations, and the consolidation of power. Their legacies are marked by both transformative changes and significant controversies, demonstrating the complexities and contradictions inherent in populist movements. Populism remains a potent and influential political force in Latin America today, with contemporary leaders such as Andrés Manuel López Obrador in Mexico and Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil continuing to champion populist agendas. Despite its transformative potential, populism's long-term effects on democratic governments, economic stability, and social cohesion in Latin America remain a subject of ongoing debate. What is clear, however, is that populism will continue to play a critical role in shaping the political and social landscape of the region in the years to come.